the most important part of this weekend is the game. Notre Dame has another opportunity. It's a big opportunity, even though it's not necessarily a big opponent, because right now Notre Dame is still very much in the phase of it's about Notre Dame. It's about learning who this team is. It's about this team learning who it is and developing and growing as a team. And the thing we as Notre Dame fans and Notre Dame analysts and Notre Dame writers and everybody else have to come to grips with is the fact that this team is not going to reach its full potential this year. I mean, that's just kind of who it is, at least not week after week. I don't think that it is, partly because of injuries, partly because of it's just to some degree, this is who this team is, right? Like Drew Pine's not going to go out there in the last 3 games of the season, which includes the bowl game, and look like Bryce Young. It's not going to happen, right? So it's about this team as it's constructed, trying to get to the point where it's playing its brand of football consistently from week to week. And as we saw last week against Navy, I think the more troubling thing for me was last week was the first time we saw this really weird difference between first half and second half. And we've seen the week to week sort of schizophrenia from this football team. We've never seen a half to half like that. Was that unique to Navy? Is that a trend? Now that Notre Dame has pretty much said, we're not going to throw the football. This is what they're going to do. They had success doing it for a half, but couldn't do it for a full game. Does that embolden opponents to say, hey, look, make them beat you because they may be able to do it for a half, but they can't do it for 60 minutes. I mean, there's all types of things that people are going to do. Notre Dame is going to have to answer those challenges and step up and say, hey, look, we are becoming that football team because, Ryan, it's imperative that this be a confidence-building game for this football team. When you head on the road next week after Thanksgiving against a really good, talented USC team, this team's going to have a lot of confidence itself. It can certainly win that game, but not if there's doubt, not if there's uncertainty, not if this team has lost momentum in who it is. And so that, to me, is something that we have to learn. Can this team play 60 minutes of good football as it heads into next week's big game?
I just want to see them stay to the true identity. You've seen it, right? Like you saw the recipe during the Clemson game. You saw what Notre Dame can be and what Notre Dame wants to be. And I think that there needs to be an understanding that it's not a one-size-fits-all to success. What is successful for Notre Dame is not going to look the same as Alabama or Georgia or X other team out there that's a good football team. What Notre Dame identity is what they need to steer into during the stretch of this season, the last few games. We've talked a lot about this, Brian, and I truly believe it. Over the first few games, I think that there was a struggle internally with Notre Dame on what exactly they wanted to be, or at least get to the level where they understood how to process driven to get to that result that they want to be. And I think that you've seen it now in spurts over the last few games. Like you saw it against Clemson. You saw it against Syracuse. You saw it in stretches last week. But Notre Dame, to be a good football team, which we know they can be, have to be able to run the football, have to be able to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football, have to play clean, sound defense and structurally sound, disciplined style on the defensive side of the football. We've seen it. We know that this team can do it. It's just now about, hey, you now know what your identity is. You need to fully adopt it now, man. You need to grab it. You need to accentuate it, and you need to move forward. And that doesn't mean that there isn't evolution that happens on top of it, because we know that you cannot just run duo 50 times a game and beat every team on the schedule.
They're going to try.
Sometimes they're going to try, but we know that eventually you're going to hit a team like last week, for instance, that's going to say, that's not going to work today. That's not going to be the recipe for success. And Notre Dame did a good job, I thought, last week in the first half of saying, okay, well, let's open up the passing game. Let's make some big plays. Let's do something that's a little different than how we win in order to set it up. Unfortunately, when they go back into the second half, still not able to set up the run game. And I think that's where you kind of fall into the lack of identity, because now you're going back to, hey, we can't run the football. That's where our bread is buttered, or where our bread is buttered. We need to be able to do that. So I think that, understanding how you want to win, how you want to play the game, and now finding other ways to accentuate their strengths to make sure that they remain strengths moving forward. And that identity, I think, is very important moving into the Boston College game.
I think a key for me when I'm looking at this football team, Ryan, is we just haven't seen enough, in my opinion, we haven't seen enough of this team being willing to sort of look at itself for who it is. And then when they finally do, it becomes such a strange sort of, okay, now you've overcorrected type of thing. And especially on offense, and we'll get into the keys and we'll talk offense first, but this is still a little bit of a big picture thing. But like offensively, it's like they were searching for an identity, couldn't find it because the things they thought they were going to be good at, they weren't good at. Then that
Right.
part of the game got better. And instead of trying to build on that while using, while also enhancing the other parts of the game, it's almost like they gave up on other parts of the game
Mm-hmm.
in this odd attempt to be so focused on we're going to be this that you lost sight of the other stuff. And then you show potential for a half against Navy, and then it just kind of goes away. And so you just come down to say, can they find that happy medium on offense? And defensively, it really comes down to, can you get back to being what you were after the triple option? I think that's the one thing that concerns me about a defense is you spend all week so locked in on this weird style of play that then a week later you kind of have to get your mind right. I think defensively, it's actually a great opportunity for them because you are playing a team that's not necessarily one that's a threat to come out and just rip you for 40. Right. So
Right.
there's a little bit of you catch a little bit of a break there because you are playing an offense. It's just simply not very good. But we have seen some unique situations where this BC team who struggles to score points consistently. I mean, we're talking a team that scored 21 against Rutgers, 10 against Virginia Tech, 14 against Florida State, 3 against Clemson, 15 against Wake Forest, 3 against UConn, 21 against NC State. And then all of a sudden they'll break out and go 34 against Louisville,
Yep.
31 against Duke. And so defensively, I think that should help a little bit. But this team ultimately, the success of this team moving forward is ultimately going to come down to, can the offense find that happy medium? And I think that's what a lot of this offense, this game is going to be about, Ryan.